Men of Reddit, have you ever used a glory hole? Was it a positive or negative experience? Had to do the dirty while I was at a bar in San Francisco, figures. Didn't suspect anything until suddenly a D pops through a hole to my right. It was a poorly lit bathroom, easy to miss the hole without a piece of flesh sticking through it. I was confused, so all I could think to do was say, "Hey how are you?" I think this confused him even more. He responded with UHH. Good. Sorry. And slowly retracted his member. Seemed like a nice guy. I work in the oil field. I have seen these before in a strip clubs. I've never done it, but a lot of the guys on my crew do it all the time. And while I was getting a lap dance, I asked the girl if she's ever on the other side of the hole, and she said the only person that does it is the owner's wife. I asked why, and she said he knows firsthand she gives the best head. That's Alberta for ya. Positive experience. Got my D sucked. Negative experience. Not sure if it was by a human. You just have to close your eyes and pretend that the ock in your mouth belongs to a beautiful woman. You're at a X club in Tampa. I prematurely ejaculated like I usually do. Till 3 methods of turning down an unexpected D entering your turf. The wet fart, the scream of astonishment, the confused hey. How are you? Apostrophe. I'm a girl. A male and female friend and I decided to check out the adult bookstore down the street from our college. We had never done that before, so we all went into the back together. We tiptoed past the black walls into a tiny room and plunked our token in. Porn came on and we just stood there aghast, watching. I turned to sit down when I noticed the bench was covered in dried cum. I was totally grossed out by this point when all of a sudden a D pokes in the hole. Me and my female friend shrieked and the offending D backed up. We ran out of there and I only caught a glimpse of a large man turning the corner. Quite an experience for a naive 18-year-old. Not that I'd ever use a glory hole, but I'd be afraid my D would somehow get chopped off if I did use one. Yep. Saw an ad on Craigslist for a couple doing a glory hole in a storage unit, so I responded and made an appointment. Both were present, but the husband was doing the sucking. I walked in, closed the door behind me, pulled down my pants, and got sucked off. Lasted about 10 minutes. Incredible blowjob. I ended up visiting about 3 more times. No regrets. STD free. I have a theory that glory holes are for people that love sucking D but have massive cold sores. Nope. For once I can actually contribute. I work at a restaurant and one of the chefs told me about this. Basically, you would call a phone number and tell them that you were coming by. They would then give you a time where you could come. So you went to the apartment at the time specified and it would all just be one small empty room, save for a red lamp. Now in the wall there was both a slit, sort of like a letterbox, and then a hole. The hole was well padded with some soft black material. All you had to do was throw 450 kr, around $80, into the slit and then just stick your D into the hole. I remember the guy who told me about it said he was terrified about sticking his D into some random hole in a wall in some strange apartment, but that's what he did. He said that was probably one of the best blowjobs he ever got. Even though it was extremely awkward standing up hugging a wall while magical things were happening to your D. After that he said he never returned because he was afraid of STDs. The fact that it might have been a dude on the other side didn't seem to bother him at all. I've been to one. As a gay guy, I took turns with a guy in the stall next to me going down on each other. The hole was big enough that you could see in the other room. The person could hide their face, but not their body, so you had an idea of who you were with. Interestingly, once I was done with that guy, I sat down on a chair in the booth, and immediately another ock pokes through. All I did was lightly touch it and this guy just starts coming everywhere. My clothes, the floor, everything had cum on it. Guy must have been ready to bust for ages. Hell yes. I got this. A few years back, me and my roommates at the time were having a pretty chill night at the house. It's around 10 PM and I decide I'm going to bed. I've had a few drinks but nothing crazy. My other friend at that very moment, was browsing Adult Friend Finder. I must have been in my room got 30 minutes before he starts banging on my door saying he met some girl online that had 3 friends and wants to party. I'm hesitant at first but I eventually cave in. So this place is like 45 minutes away but it's whatever. We get like 10 minutes out and call her for final directions. She now changes her story. It's only 2 girls, there are 4 of us. We still go. It's now a competition. Fuck it. We pull up to the trailer park and find the right one. We make one more phone call. The story changes again. Now we have to go in one at a time and be REALT quiet. Well, we're all idiots so we accept. We pick the weakest of the group and send him in. 10 minutes go by and I'm convinced he's been raped and killed. Right before I run in and burn the bee down I see him come out. He gets in the car and says I don't know what just happened. I'm next. I walk in not knowing what to expect. I end up in a restroom and see a shower curtain that's been blacked out and has a hole in it. The female voice says to stick my D in the hole and so I do without question. It was by far the best blowjob I've ever had. If that was a freaking man, then that man can suck a mean D. 10/10 would frick that shower curtain again TL. DR. Fricked a shower curtain. And sure about the gender. Would do it again. Glory holes are not as common as they used to be. The original purpose was for both gay and straight men to have sex in secrecy, i.e. between toilet stalls. They evolved to thrill seekers who got off on not knowing who was on the other side, i.e. adult bookstores, in addition to the secrecy element. However, with all the social media choices these days, egg apps like Grindr, and ways people meet, and the fact that gay X is more acceptable and available, it means using a glory hole has become less common. You don't need to travel down to the local bookstore to watch porn in a booth, you can easily access it at home or on your phone mobile device, and with the apps can see who is ready and available within walking distance anywhere in the world. Some public X venues on site X premises for men still have them just for those who like it for thrill reasons. In my years in Exol Health I have heard quite a few glory hole nightmare stories. The most common being the realization it is not being sucked but you are inadvertently having unprotected insertive anal with someone. I've been told due to the wall it throws off the sensation a bit, so you just feel the wet opening and may take a few minutes to realize what is happening. The worst one was a client, before the internet, who used to like using them in an adult store, then hang out in the browsing area and see who came out of the other booth. After sucking a guy off, he did his usual wait to see his dad come out. The dad didn't see him as he hid in the shop, but the client was extremely traumatized by it, as you would be. He never went back again in the time I was working with him. Geez, I never knew I had so much knowledge about glory holes. My parents would be so proud. I met this guy on the internet and we had an immediate connection and met up shortly after talking on the phone for the first time. We fricked at a hotel. The next time we met we decided to go to a glory hole at this really gross adult bookstore. He loved to suck cock and I love big guys. So we go in this little room and a gorgeous big cock pokes through the hole. He sucked it lovingly first then offered it to me. I have a daddy complex so he was muttering in my ear all this dirty sh while I lapped at this stranger's cock. I was insanely wet when he slid into me from behind. The man blasted all over my face and my new friend licked it off and kissed me for a while. Probably the dirtiest and hottest thing I've ever done in my life. Edit. For clarification, I am a female. And I do not have nudes. If there are 3 glory holes in the bathroom at the club and 28 guys at the circuit party, how many rotations of guys will it take before everybody's at a turn? 9. With a remainder of Brent. I'm also wondering what actually operating one is like. Before the internet, the only way to get prom was trading or buying videos, or visiting an adult bookstore. This you all already know. I was young, probably 18-19 the first time I encountered one. In the booth spanking it, and I feel a breeze blowing through. That's when I saw the hole. And as soon as I recognized it, a voice said feed me that ox, so I obliged. Good head, but not the point of my post. 2 years ago a couple I know broke up. The marriage wasn't working, yada yada yada. Friends with both but much closer to the female. So to console her, and maybe get laid, we go out one night shortly after the separation. Football and drinks at the bar turn into drinks and lap dances at the strip club, which is located adjacent to an adult bookstore. Leaving the club, we stray into the abs. Browse videos, look at dildos for her, but she prefers the real thing. Then she asks why they charge to go into the back room. So I tell her there's porn playing on screens in booths. She says let's go see. Being a gentleman, I paid her entry fee and mine and escorted her through the door after we were buzzed in. For those of you that don't know, the abs scene is about anonymity. The guy in the pay booth is behind reflective glass. The loser outside the booth talking to him is wearing a baseball cap low over his eyes. And as we walk through the door there is no one in the common area where the booths are located. The place seemed empty, so she picked a booth. Locked. She tries the one next to it, locked as well. They are set up in a V config along 2 walls. The only one not occupied is the center of the V, in between 2 booths, so we step in together. She stood next to me, pressing her chest against me from the back as I flip through the video selection, landing on an intense BJ scene. Before I know it she's kissed me and hit her knees, mimicking the video. She gives fantastic head. Always said she did, but now I believe her. But I'm drunk, and don't immediately shoot. She pauses to ask what the problem is when she saw it. Big white ox sticking through a hole in the wall. WTF, she asks. I tired to warn you, I say, taking advantage of her mouth hanging open to reinsert my ock. Surprised, but submissive, she begins to suck again, without taking her eyes off of the nudie in front of her. Then out of nowhere she grabs it. So she's sucking me, and stroking this other guy, and another ock pops through the second hole. I hate to say it, but I now had the smallest D in the booth. But I also had my D already down her throat, so win for me. She reaches over to the secondary interloper peen and strokes it too, like Jesus on the cross, arms stretched both ways, 1 D in each hand and me in her mouth. I shoot almost immediately, she swallows like a trooper. The first ock through pops in her hand before she can get to her mouth around it, so she milked it until it went soft. But the other guy got it best. I promise this dude was at least 10 feet. Hands still sticky with cum, she knew walks over to it, licked it up the shaft from the hole once, then swallowed it whole. 3 more bobs of her head and she had another load in her mouth. She stood up, wiped her lips off, grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the booth, out of the store into the car. I tried to speak on the way to her house but couldn't think of anything to say. Way to blow came to mind, but I refrained. She got out of the car when I pulled up, thanked me for a fun night and walked into her house alone. We still speak almost every day but have never mentioned that night to each other again. It's also the only time she's ever blown me. More than once. Not really worth it. I think back in the golden era of the 70s they were probably a lot more fun, but now it's just a novelty. Like candy underwear. I think I've posted this somewhere else in a similar thread, but yes, I have. I think the important thing is to take a long hard look at yourself before doing it and acknowledge a few things. There's a strong possibility the person on the other side is not attractive or is not the gender you suspect. You have no idea what state of health they're in. There is an inherent risk in any private meeting with a stranger. If you're either willing to risk these, or are not bothered by them, then you could enjoy it. I did not have a negative experience, but I'm comfortable with the fact I had no idea who the other person was. Yep. I saw an ad on Craigslist looking for volunteers to come to a glory hole in a house. Ordinarily I would have been creeped out by that and would have said no way, but I emailed with the owner a bit and they seemed pretty sane. I decided to go check out the house. I drove by it, and it looked like a pretty nice place. Front area nicely maintained, cute fountain statues and whatnot. So I decide to try it out. I go in and down the stairs, and it's a darkened room with a bed and a TV playing prawn. I wasn't sure what to do, so I sat on the edge of the bed and worked myself up, difficult because I was so nervous. I looked around and saw the hole in a dark corner, which looked like a modified closet door. There was one of the most amazing tits coming through the opening, so I went over and put my hand through and started fondling them. After a minute, she pulled them back and I took that as to mean put your rock in now. So I did. And holy frick, easily the most incredible blowjob I've ever had. I've never met another person who could take my entire rock in their throat, which is a crazy turn on for me. I came buckets, and as soon as I left she emailed me, "You came so much down my greedy throat and I loved it. See you soon, Zai." I have been back several times since and plan on continuing. I got chatting with someone online who'd set one up in his apartment. It was effectively a sheet with a slit cut into the middle hanging between two rooms. He left the door unlocked so I could walk in and put my D through the slit in the sheet while he went to work. I just did under 5 minutes, didn't contract any STDs, and went home with an empty sack. I'd call that a positive experience. Edit, maybe I should have been more precise with my wording. The guy didn't leave for work when I turned up. One would assume that that would be self-evident, but the sheer amount of jokes relating to this turn of phrase would have me believe otherwise. Postar/4chan. Submitted a few hours ago actually. http:// imgur. comgvkeep. png. Glory hole story time. Reposted from when I told it in another glory hole thread. This happened to a colleague of mine, who used to be with the Hong Kong police. A construction worker walks into the police station, sweating profusely and looking forlorn. He says he thinks he's just committed a crime. My colleague, not used to somebody being so frank about this sort of thing, takes him into an interview room. He asks the man to explain what happened. So, this construction worker was working on a development near a public park, and on a break had an urgent need to take a dump. So he goes to the restrooms at the park, and takes a seat in one of those stalls. He's minding his own business whilst pinching out a loaf, when he hears the sound of somebody shuffling into the toilets. Suddenly, the toilet paper in his stall flutters a little bit, and before he knows it, there's somebody's bell end poking through. This construction worker is silently aghast, and without thinking, reaches into his shirt pocket and pulls out his cigarette lighter. He lowers the lighter under the fleshy intruder, and sparks up. He hears a yell of pain, before the Johnson retracts and the guy does the runner. The worker wipes up, immediately leaves the construction site and headed straight to the police station. My colleague tells him that it's highly unlikely somebody is going to make a report, particularly in those circumstances, but he'd take his name down just in case somebody came in complaining of a burned knob. Okay, so I'm probably late to the show, but I need to share this story. It's not about me, but about a guy I know through a friend. So a group of 20-year-old Belgian guys are on holiday in Thailand. They're having a great time of it, drinking every night and doing all the stuff you'd expect men of their age to do there. With 3 days left until they return home, the guy in question, let's call him Kevin, and a friend, go to a grotty strip club of sorts. They pay a fee to go in and start having some fun. Kevin gets a dance from a classic uncertain gender Thai person, and then decides to head for the bathroom. On his way, he sees a wall with a line of glory holes on it. Being drunk, he thinks it would be a good idea to put his D through and see what happens. Well, his D starts getting sucked. He can see some of the trannies walking to the other side of the wall, so he's pretty confident of who's on the other side. Anyway, he finishes up, pulls his D back through, and then makes a huge mistake. He decides to look over the wall to see who was on the other side. So he looks over, and what does he see standing on the other side? An 8-year-old boy with his face covered in cum staring up at him. Kevin then rushes to the bathroom, has a fit, and gets carried back by his friend. He's been seeing a psychiatrist for 2 years since it happened. TLDR, Kevin gave an 8-year-old boy a facial. Yeah, I made a glory hole in my closet door and tried using it. It was not very exciting, to tell you the truth. Is a second person supposed to be involved somehow? I wish I wasn't remembering this right now. I was in a bar in LA and went in the bathroom to take a stinker tinker. I'm sitting there for 30 seconds when I notice some movement out of the corner of my eye. I turn to look, and there is some dude's boner sticking right towards me. My twitch reflex was to punch this dude's D. I slammed my fist head on into his gizmo, like a hammer hitting a nail. I immediately hear the blood-curdling scream come from the other stall, followed by him frantically getting his pants back on and running out of the bathroom. I immediately felt terrible about it. I didn't even think about what was happening or my reaction. It just kind of instinctively happened. I'm pretty sure I broke his penis. If you're out there, guy, I'm really sorry. You scared the shit out of me and I didn't mean to punch your wiener. TLDR, broke a guy's PP. Edit, I totally missed out on the opportunity to make a whack-a-mole joke in this story. I'm ashamed of myself. Not shitting you, the homeless shelter soup kitchen in Juneau, capital of Alaska, is called the Glory Hole. I've never had the pleasure of stuffing my mouth there, but maybe someday. http://www. Juneau. Org services. As a curious 11-year-old gay boy, I found the glory hole at the local public library. I watched men masturbate and learned to do the same. My first orgasm was there and was an amazing surprise. I revisited a few times and saw a few penises. Once or twice, someone knelt under the stool and I touched. Dicks didn't come through the hole much. It was more watching, but I often hid my penis. One day after school, I was there and a large hairy man was in the next stall. No one else was in the bathroom, 3 stalls plus urinal. He showed his through the hole and wanted to touch mine. I said no. He stood outside the stall, his large figure peeping between the narrow slits, the door clasped between us. He kept asking me to let him in, but I didn't. Finally, someone else entered the bathroom. He returned to his stall and I hightailed it out of there, breathless and scared. I've seen many glory holes since, but mostly in private settings, campgrounds, bathhouses. It's not my thing, since I like to see my man first. The creepy pedo bear going after 12-year-old me sort of killed my interest in glory holes. With the internet, there's not much need for Tirumex. I used to work in a motorway service station. Fucking glory holes were getting drilled every day. We tried screwing sheets of aluminium to the dividing walls, but those truck drivers are stubborn bastards. Every now and then you would see a driver just stood outside looking furiously around like he had been stood up for a date. Get a fricking hotel room. I mean, there was a Days Inn attached to the complex, so you could have just paid £37 and really go for it. Second question. Say you stick your D through, and a burly man starts sucking it. Do you pull your D back out, or let him finish, because if you can't see it, it isn't really happening? Never used one. But back when I was in school, I worked at an adult bookstore. Saw some amazing sh go down there. There were 15 booths in the back with holes between them. Some holes were so big you could climb through to the other stall. Most of the clientele were older men, many in the 60-80 range, who had been closeted and would go there to hook up with each other. Real old guy type of stuff. They'd show up in trench coats with women's linear underneath and frick like bunnies in the back. One guy used to wear his World War II Navy uniform and top the trannies. It was a real fricked up scene. We'd get couples once in a while, gay men, horny husbands, curious college kids, etc. The worst part of the job was the cleanup. If I worked first shift, I had to mop the back room. Had coveralls, gloves, goggles and boots. Used to mop up the jizz and condoms and whatever else was on the floor, walls and ceiling. The only nice part was the store used to be a KFC back in the 70s and the back room was where the kitchen used to be. It still had the tile floor and drain, so when there was a pile of sh in a booth, I could hose it towards the drain. Weirdest thing I ever found in the back was a Cabbage Patch Kid with sh covered condoms on its arms and legs. Fun times. Here I am, thinking this thread was about glass blowing. More than 11 children. Positive. HIV positive. There's a narrow passage in Lincoln, England called the Glory Hole. The street, the sign. 2 children. It's great. Except for Sunday, when it's your turn in the barrel. I've never seen one, but I would be too scared. Someone could easily bite my D off. https://encrypted-tbn2. Static. Com images. Q equals TBN. And 9GCTJV2QVK arms KTLH9PFF7 Mark DTLOS7TLL6HGGM WPOC 5ZDC7LG. Imad angle my dongle through this hole in the wall of a festering toilet cubicle in the abandoned outskirts, and leave its fate in the hands of whichever transient reprobate happens to be occupying the next stall. What could possibly go wrong? It turns out it was just a tree, and the squirrel ripped the hell out of my D. More than 23 children. Not my story, and it's the other way around. My cousin, when he just turned 18, went to an adult video store or something like that. He ends up needing to take a crap, so goes to the bathroom. He was either oblivious to the hole, or didn't notice it. A couple of minutes in, a dude puts his Stanley in the hole. My cousin screams like a girl, kicks the dude's D, picked up his pants and left the store. Shay and all. No, but a guy I went to high school with was on the receiving end. He was in a bathroom stall at a local beach. He hit it with his sandal and ran away. Brit here. My ex and I pulled up at Fleet Services in Hampshire halfway through a road trip and he goes to the loo. He came back quite pale with a horrified expression on his face. When I asked him what was up, he said there was a hole in the toilet wall, so he looked through it. Seriously though, why the frick would you look through it? He then got poked in the eye with a penis. When he yelled, the guy went, "Oh, sorry mate," and went silent. It was hilarious. I laughed for weeks, almost without stopping, and told the whole family. He never went back to Fleet Services. I went to one outside London once. 25 quid would get you a blowjob. 40 quid would ensure it was from a girl. Why are you only asking the guys? I would also be interested in women's answers myself. I have never used one. I stopped doing anything that required sitting in public restrooms a long time ago. Nothing more jarring than a slippery meat stick slowly appearing out of the corner of your eye while you're trying to get past the various stains on every surface in the stall. And I'm gay. Sorry, I just can't find a disembodied wang interesting, no matter how attractive it is. I just picture it attached to my dad or Walter Matt Thor. Isn't that basically what Reddit is? A text-based glory hole. My time to shine and no story to tell. God damn it. Positive. Knew who it was though, GF and her friend. Was at a X club so the setup was great. The stalls were facing a theater screen showing prom. The only negative was the friend sucked ock much better. PS apparently it's good etiquette to let them know you're going to come. GF was peered. The friend walked around the X club wearing it like a Congressional Medal of Honor though. Where the frick do you even find a glory hole? Think like small town middle America or anywhere, USA. Are these glory holes in fixed locales or are they improvised and can pop out anywhere? Asterisk. I can't believe all of the comments on this. Are there really that many glory holes out there? Damn my shitty, sheltered life here in rural Pennsylvania. Why do people go into the men's restroom and expect a woman to be on the other side of the D-hole? I never understood how people do this without worrying that they'll get a STD. TL. DR guys will stick their D in pretty much anything. Finally my name is relevant. But no, never use one. As a female, I just learned way too much about glory holes. Thanks Reddit. I have screwed a hole in the wall a few times. But no one was on the other side. I live a lonely life. More than 45 children. Nope, I have absolutely no experience with this, but I just wanted to share the gross but kinda adorable fact that my gran is still convinced that glory hole is a term for a large cupboard or storage nook in a house. Innuendos abound. Glory holes are a gay thing. There is no such thing as a woman on the other end. Lady here, and although it was not an official glory hole, I thought y'all might like the story. My boyfriend was helping me move while he was having an incredibly stressful time at work. He was amazing the whole time and I was trying to think of some special way to thank him and help him release some of that extra tension. I had just unpacked one of those tall cardboard wardrobe boxes and got an idea. The next time he comes in the door, amid all that chaos, in the middle of the room is that box with big bold arrows pointing to the hole I'd cut in it, revealing only the bright red lipstick on my waiting mouth. I was on my knees inside. He still gets hard every time he sees a U-Haul truck. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.